recording, and I will repeat this at the end, but I'm also going to do a live stream of this presentation in December, because I know there was a lot of confusion. So if you need to leave, or if you know anybody who didn't catch the change, let them know about that. We also don't have a projector, so I'm going to walk through it as best I can. If you go to the 20Books Vegas 2022 Facebook page and search my name, Rowenson, or Making Magic Matter, there should be a post from me that has, in the comments, should have a link to the slides. So I will do my best. All right, so it looks like so many more people when it's in this room than so yeah, this is your magic matter. So first off, who the hell am I and can you trust me? So I am C.R Rowenson, also known as the Magic Engineer. I am an award-winning author, a developmental editor, a writing coach, and most importantly, a magic system nut job. And a big part, the main reason I do a lot of this is I just want to see more and better magic systems in print. I don't care if they're mine. So I am happy to be here helping you all, which is why you guys have been very patient with schedule changes, and I want to make sure that you get something. Okay, in order to figure out, first off, I'm going to answer questions with more questions in the most annoying way possible. First off, I guess the first question is, why do we need our magic to matter? And to answer that, we need to get into what is magic. Who here wasn't at my talk at 9:30? Okay, enough that I will repeat myself. So magic is, in my opinion, anything enabling effects or abilities beyond our capability or understanding. It's a very broad net. It catches traditional magic as well as advanced tech. Your monsters from horror, planetary phenomenon, extraplanar phenomenon, anything that is that step beyond reality. I also should ask, can everybody hear me? Okay. So that's what a magic system is. It's intentionally broad because as storytellers, I believe that we can approach them all the same. This also includes whatever game system you have. If you're doing lit RPG, the lit RPG is interesting because there's often systems and systems. But I will not digress on that. So magic, in a nutshell, is what makes our fiction fantastical. In my opinion, it's what makes our fiction cool and unlike anything else, but I'm really biased towards magic. So take that as you will. Now, a magic system, so if magic is anything enabling effects or abilities, a magic system is the information, patterns, and rules that allow you, your readers, and your characters to understand the magic. It can be a very simple system, as simple as I do X, Y happens, period, end of story, don't ask any more questions. That's still a system. Now, magic systems, when we make a magic system that matters to our story, they can make our stories and our worlds truly unique. They can help us turn ephemeral and esoteric concepts into something more concrete, tangible, and visceral. And it can, excuse me, sorry guys, it can create that draw that really pulls people in and gets them excited to stay in your world and come back to your world. I'm hoping that this is just the smoke, and when I go home it will all be gone.
It's pretty bad for some of us.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me much last year, but this year.
Yeah, the dry air does not help.
Yeah. So I'm a little biased, but I think a magic system that matters can deliver everything our readers want. Like, seriously, I think it can do all of that if we do it correctly. So, when it's done right, you get things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where every character can be its own draw, can build its own fan base, continues to expand and build on itself, and creates fascinating intricacies of how are these people going to interact, how can they interact, what do they mean to each other, and how does that affect the world overall. and what stories can be told with these different people on their own, together, against each other. I mean, that's the whole arc of the Avengers and Civil War, right? Just exploring these people with power and what that means when they need to test their beliefs. You can also get The Babadook, which I talked about this morning. It's a horror movie about a grieving widow and her son, who's about 6, I think. And The Babadook is a monster that is an incredible representation of mental health problems and unhealthy grieving, and how it can spiral into dangerous levels and dangerous places if left unchecked. It's also really cool because it's one of the few horror movies where they don't actually defeat the monster in the end. It's such a good representation of mental health, because in the end the Babadook is managed in the basement, and she has to feed it, take care of it, and some days it's a problem and some days it's not. It's amazing, and it lets you step into this person's shoes in a way that you couldn't otherwise, with that sense of dread and hopelessness and helplessness that can come from mental health depressions and bouts of problems. And when it's done wrong, these were very popular. This is my opinion. I caveat everything with it is my opinion. You get Heroes, the TV show. Because I was expecting superheroes with drama, and I got drama with superhero in here. It didn't seem to matter. They tied it in tangentially in ways that felt to me very superficial, irrelevant, honestly, because the problems and conflicts they had easily could have been replaced with other more basic character and situational issues without it being as confusing. So that mine, they didn't follow their own rules, and they just sort of threw stuff around. I didn't make it past season 1, so if it got better, I don't know. But that's part of it done wrong. The other one is Suicide Squad. The first one, the bad one, the one we don't talk about. Because that is one where the magic didn't belong in that story. They have all of these mundane characters. They have Killer Croc, they have Harley Quinn, they have Deadeye, Deadshot, Dead something guns, whatever. And these normal people, oh yes, and the dude with the boomerang, we can't forget the boomerang. They are up against a cosmic incursion with somebody who can tear buildings apart and rend a new hole in reality. That doesn't seem fair, and they did not do a good job, in my opinion, playing out the underdog story. They just kind of won. So that was a situation where the magic could have really elevated things, taking things to a new level, and really forced them to come together. Instead, they came together because that's what needed to happen. Anyway, my opinion, lots of problems with that movie. But those are situations where the magic didn't matter. And I didn't care about the magic, and to a certain extent, I didn't care as much about the story. Now, I know I've been harping a lot about like what it can do and how important it is, and even just talking through it, it's building up some anxiety for me, but don't panic. It is manageable, and we can do this. And there's a lot of examples of it done right, and that's what we're going to get into, is how exactly we can talk through it. So, real quick, I'm going to go through the 7 stages of building a magic system again, so that you understand where this fits in. Again, the 7 stages are something I discovered as I did my own magic systems and worked with people. They are stages that people don't necessarily go in this order, but when people have a truly stellar magic system, I find they have touched on each of these stages at least once. And stage 1 is inspiration, where you find your seed crystal. You find that pitch, that core piece, that once you find it, everything starts growing and growing around it and snapping into place. It's one of those things that when you find it, people's eyes light up and start spitting out ideas of like, oh, and what if this happens? And then these people could do this, and that could cause these problems. That's how you know you've got a good seed crystal. And at risk of promoting my own stuff too much, on my YouTube channel there are some videos I do called Spells and Specialists, where I co-host with another YouTuber, and we have experts come on. We learn about their subject, and then we take what we learned and convert it into a seed crystal, then a magic system, and then a story. But if you watch the second video of any of those series, you will see partway through when all of our eyes brighten up and we have hit on the seed crystal. So if you want to know what that looks like, that's a great place to go. Stage 2 is idea generation. Once you have that spark and that kernel, you need to generate a lot of ideas, because that's how you're going to find the best ones. It doesn't matter if they contradict each other. It doesn't matter if they make sense. It doesn't matter if they will cause problems. Just keep writing them down. You want more ideas than you can possibly use, because you will then slim it down in the later stages to find the best ones that work together, so they work best together and they work best for your story. And to do that, you need a lot of garbage. And by the way, don't throw any of it away. Keep all of that. I call it my fiction boneyard, because I like the idea of resurrecting my ideas as undead minions. But just keep them there, because things you don't use in this system, you might use in the next, or they might become a seed crystal for another system, or spark a whole new story. Don't throw stuff away. Planning doesn't go bad. It just changes. Stage 3 is alignment, which is where you explore what your magic system needs to be. That's really what we're talking about here. What do you need to emphasize your theme, or your character's arc, or your setting? All of that stuff. Stage 4, this is what most people think of when we talk about building magic. This is definition, where you decide what your magic actually can do. And you start putting patterns in place and saying they can do this, they can do that. Once you know a lot of what they can do, you need to step forward to restrictions and decide what your magic system can't do. Limitations are very important. Overpowered characters are boring. If you have an overpowered character, you can still make it work, but that's a whole side thing. I think some of you were there for testing your magic. We talked about that some there with matching the challenge to their weakness. So yes, they're overpowered in this arena, but that doesn't apply. The example I like is if you're powerful enough to nuke a city block with your magic, that doesn't help you too much when you've been hired to rescue a bunch of hostages. So once you've done the restrictions, you need to go through the testing. And this is seeing how, testing is all about exploring the extremes. How focused can it get? How broad can it get? How far can it go? How close can it go? What's the largest magnitude? Can people combine forces together? Is it only one person? How do you get to the extremes? And that will help you head problems off at the pass to stop plot problems and stop plot holes. Now you may find that you find a problem and you like it and decide to keep it, at which point it's not a bug, it's a feature. At least that's what you tell everybody. So with that, I talked about it more yesterday, but watch your God factors. The closer any character gets to being all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present, or being able to access anything, or unlimited, or gaining unlimited wealth, you have potential problems. Not a guarantee, but those are big red flags. You can work around it because we're writers and we can do anything. But those are things to watch for. The last stage is iteration. Because our book isn't perfect on the first draft, your magic system won't be either. And also for me, iteration is a huge relief valve. I can let go of all of the fear of, am I picking the right thing? Is this the coolest thing? Is this what I really need? Can I do something better? Because I'm going to come back to it. And you can come back in any order you want. You can go back to stage 1 and all the way through stage 7. You can focus in on very specific parts of your magic system and go through the 7 stages. Let's say you found a really problematic break. Go back, check how it matches your seed crystal. Generate ideas for solutions and workarounds, and just go through the 7 stages again. So like I said, when we want to make it matter, that all comes down to alignment. We need to make sure it aligns with what we want, the way we want. So to do that, and to really do that effectively, we need to understand how the magic can factor into the other components of our story. And when I say story components, I'm talking character, plot, setting, theme, and any of your genre elements or genre promises. I don't say genre as in where it goes on the book or on the shelf, but the elements of betrayal, ensemble, suspense, horror, relationship, those kinds of components, making sure you understand what those elements and promises are, and figuring out how we can match the magic to that. Now, the magic can factor into these components in a variety of ways. One second. And I think there are 4 big ones. One, your magic can act as a positive factor for this component. It's a resource, a tool, a solution. It's something that enables new things, allows problem solving, and unlocks potential. It can also be a negative factor, which does the opposite. It holds people back, it holds elements back, it drives them away, it prevents them from becoming their best. It's a problem, it's an obstacle, it's a pain point. And we'll get into some examples of these as we go through. And the interesting thing about those two, using your magic as a positive, negative factor, will often trigger emotions in the readers. Fear, longing, excitement. Using it in those factors will often help you draw out some of the emotions from your readers. The next two will help you connect your story with the real world. So, your magic can act as an analogous factor, where it is functioning as a metaphor or a manifestation of a concept or idea. And we'll get more into that, but that can be, the magic itself can represent, it can parallel your character arc. It can be a representation of the antagonist. It can represent something in our world. So Dune, the spice, I can't think of a better allegory for oil if I tried, honestly. Just the way they set up all the infrastructure and what spice does and how they use it, it's pretty spot on, and he's able to do it without actually saying oil. It can also be a driving factor. When your magic is a driving factor for a component, that means the magic is part of what makes it what it is, part of what moves it forward, and what causes things to happen. So it can be an inciting incident or the main reason for that component. So you guys confused enough yet? All right. Well, we're going to talk through some examples. So what I'm going to do next is I have examples for each of the components of story, and we'll look at how those work. So, who has read The Sword of Truth? A couple people? Okay. So in The Sword of Truth, there is a particular brand of magic users known as the Confessors. Because what they do is they come up, they can use their magic on somebody, and that person will tell them the truth. Period. That person now also has their mind broken and is completely dedicated to them and will die for them, including cutting their own throat, but hey, they will tell the truth. So that right there, because it's love to the extreme. When they activate this, the person, they have overridden their personality and had them completely obsessed with the confessor. So it's a tool, it's a positive factor, it's something that allows them to shape society and achieve their goals. Also has some big problems. Throughout the series, especially when you have a confessor who actually cares for somebody, there's problems there. So in that case, the magic is both a positive and negative factor. You can have your magic be multiple factors for multiple components at once. And I'm not necessarily saying the more the better, but when you do get more, it does tend to be more strongly integrated. Doesn't mean you should try and get it connected to all of them in all ways, because that can get kind of confusing. But adding multiple connections will just strengthen it. We already talked about the Babadook. The monster is the magic. In which case it is analogous for the depression and the fear and the helplessness. It's also the driving factor. The Babadook is what moves the story forward and drives the character through her arc. And it's a negative factor because, this thing is trying to break her mind and kill her and her boy, or force her to kill her boy. It's not good. It's certainly not positive. And these are all just connections to the characters themselves. Because like I said, it drives your character arc. That also connects to the plot because it drives the plot forward. The Babadook shows up and does things, so more things happen. In Harry Potter, you have the Boggarts, which will manifest as a person's greatest fear. That, I mean, I hesitate to call it analogous because it's pretty much right on point for it. But that's what it is. It becomes a literal representation of the character's fears. Which, if you ended up doing a series or a larger plot hook around that as a monster, could be very interesting. That's kind of what it is in Stephen King, but not quite because aliens, but you know, whatever. Then there's the magic with your plot. Going back to the Boggarts are also an analogy and metaphor for some elements of the plot. They are, pardon the pun, they are moonlighting a potential problem that is coming up. When we see Lupin's fear of the moon, we don't necessarily know what it is, but that's a metaphor and a lampshade for something that's going to be a big plot problem. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Just looking at the wardrobe, looking at nothing else. That is the core driving factor of the story. The story couldn't happen without the wardrobe. Then if you look at Mistborn, from the magic and plot perspective, they can do all kinds of things like push metal towards and away from themselves, sense other people who are using magic, hide themselves, use it to fly through the air, jump up into buildings, all kinds of stuff. So it's a character tool, but it's also a very powerful plot tool for Brandon, both in a positive and a negative way. They are able to use the magic to solve plot problems, like gain access to a fourth story building without much of an issue. But at the same time, their opposition, the Lord Ruler, is immortal for reasons they don't understand. And they have to figure that out, and that's connected to the magic. And that's one of the big obstacles they have to face. That and just his raw power. All right. Then there's connecting your magic to the setting. I'm going to cheat here. Two of the examples are there for the same reason. If you look at Stargate and Star Trek, the advanced tech is the magic, and that setting could not exist without that magic. It's in the title. If you don't have the Stargate, like, what's going to happen? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? It's just another Earth soldier flick at that point. It is integral to the setting. Same thing with Star Trek. You need the hyperdrives, or not hyperdrives, whatever it is they use.
Warp core.
Thank you. FTL, the faster than light travel they use. That's what allows them to boldly go where no man has gone before. If they didn't have that, Catch Line wouldn't make any sense. Then you have Fern Gully, which is a really fun one because the magic of both the hidden world of the fairies and the animals. I mean, again, you can't have that fantastical pseudo portal fantasy without that magic there. It's also an incredible metaphor for how we're treating our environment. Pretty spot on, but it is a kid's movie, and even going back and watching it, it's still real good. Which drives us right into theme and genre, again with Fern Gully, driving and metaphorical. The bad guy is literal pollution. I mean, just the way that works, the way they have to defeat him, the problems they're dealing with, how the character gets drawn in, all of that ties into the theme and ties into the genre that they're trying to show us through that story. Then you have Underworld, which if you haven't seen it, it is like the epitome of urban fantasy. Before, I think it might, yes, definitely before Twilight. Came out when I was in high school. Don't look up when it came out. You don't need to know. But it is vampires versus werewolves. And it's cheesy and it's hokey, but it's amazing. And without the vampires and the werewolves, wouldn't be able to explore the key aspects of that genre. And then lastly, when we get to Harry Potter, we're back to driving and analogous factors for both the theme and the genre, right? Even just the first one, over and over again. The power's in view. We see that from the beginning, from when he defends himself from his cousin, when he picks up the wand, when he finds the stone and the mirror of Erised, right? It's there reinforcing those themes, and that continues through the other books, which if I had thought ahead, I would have written out for more of the books, but you get the point. So that is, those are the components, and that's how you can make your magic matter. And it's going to be a little close. Usually I do this over an hour, so I'll leave it up to you guys. I have an exercise that I can guide you guys through to help you start finding ways to make your magic matter, or we can jump into questions for the remainder. Exercise, cool. All right, so everybody pull out a notebook, a phone, whatever. What you're going to need to do is on 6 separate lines, write character, plot, setting, theme, genre element, and magic.
Will you repeat that one more time?
Character, plot, setting, theme, genre elements, and magic. So what we're going to do, I call this exercise speed dating your magic, because you're going to get 1 minute per component. And for that minute, I want you to identify your favorite thing that you have about that component in your story. So with the character, it doesn't have to be your protagonist. It might be. It might be a character moment, a character conflict, might be a side character, might be a character concept. Anything relating to character, character arc, characterization, character, doesn't matter. What is your favorite thing? And try and phrase it in a single sentence. And we're going to go through each of them. So you guys have 1 minute starting now. Fifteen seconds. All right, that's time. So next you're going to do the same thing for plot. It can be your plot pitch, favorite moment in the plot, summary of the overall plot, inciting incident, any plot component, whatever. What's your favorite part? Go. Fifteen seconds. All right, pens down. Next is setting. Go. 15 seconds. Okay, pins down. Theme. Go. And if you don't have your theme, tone is also a good one to use. Seconds. Time. Okay. Genre elements. I listed a bunch off, things like ensemble, relationship, thriller, cosmic horror, lit RPG. See if you can get 3 to 5, or if you can craft it as a sentence, if there's a very specific experience you're looking to deliver, a very specific promise you want to make, that's good too. You can go. Fifteen seconds. Okay. Last, your magic. If you don't have a magic system yet, which I would understand because you're coming here to learn about magic, just steal like a writer. Just pick your favorite book and write down your favorite thing about their magic system, and go from there. So, go. Fifteen seconds. All right, stop. Now we're going into speed dating your magic part 2, where we're going to go back to the top, and you're going to get 1 minute, just because we're limited on time for each. And I want you to jot down ideas of how the magic can factor into that component, right? Could it be a positive factor, a negative factor, analogous, driving? And if you don't know how, at least identifying which factor you want it to be is a great start. If you do know how, that's also good. So go ahead and go back up to character. You've got 1 minute. Go. 15 seconds. All right. Same thing for plot. Go. Fifteen seconds. Stop. Setting. Go. Fifteen seconds. Theme, go. Fifteen seconds. Elemental genre, go. Fifteen seconds. Time. All right. How do you guys feel about that?
It was really interesting because it enhanced my notion of what was going on in the book. And my first reaction was to always make it the positive. But then as you said, 15 seconds, I found myself saying, but turn that around. And it showed me the negative impacts as well.
And I love this exercise because hopefully it's also showing you how tying it, taking it, connecting these things together can help enhance and clarify the parts that you didn't know you hadn't fully figured out. As a side note, this is also the first half is an exercise that's just speed dating your story that I use that is a great way to come up with your pitch. Because you now have all of your favorite parts, and chances are those are going to be the parts that get other people most excited too. Okay, so we're into the last bit about me. You can find me at crrowenson.com or on YouTube as the Magic Engineer. Like I said, I do offer coaching for all story and writing related issues. I do offer developmental editing. You can find more about that at crrowenson.com/coaching. Unfortunately, you guys can't take pictures of this, but you can get the slides. So I have 2 books. One is Restrictions May Apply. It is a workbook with 15 exercises to help you find where you need limitations and make interesting limitations for your magic system. Only available on ebook. You can get the exercises without any explanation for free on my website. Look into the slides and you can find the link there. There's also the Magic System Blueprint, which is available on ebook and paperback on Amazon. Hardbacks are only available at where I am at in person. The plan was for me to sell those tomorrow. We're really going to see how I'm feeling. I'm really hoping to sell those tomorrow at the book signing. You can, if you want additional examples, you can join my newsletter on my website, where you can get the Magic System Blueprint Starter's Guide, which includes the core blueprint and a bunch of extra examples you can't really get anywhere else. Or you can just get the downloadable and printable blueprint so that you can fill it out yourself. And if you guys saw the presentation, you saw what it looks like. You can get extra pages so you can take notes about your restrictions and limitations and all that kind of stuff. I am planning on doing a live Q&A on Sunday, the 20th. Again, that's questionable now. But you can find out more about that if you follow me on Patreon, which is just patreon.com/C.R Rowenson. And same thing for the December rehash of this. So if you want to watch that again with the slides, you just want to do the exercise again, you just want to say hi, or you need to direct somebody who wasn't able to make it, you can find information there. It's free to follow me on Patreon. And that is all I've got. I have cards up here, QR codes for my different books. Please do email me and reach out. I have people saying they don't want to bother me. I wouldn't ask if I was being bothered. So that's all I have for now. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for sitting in the room with me. Now, whatever you guys do, get out of here, keep writing, and stay awesome.